Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today on Masechtas Gittin Daf Samach Aleph. We're going to begin on the bottom of Samach Amid Beis, the very last line. Mitsudos Chaya v'ofos v'dogim yesh behen v'chulu. So this goes back to our Mishnah that there are certain things for Darchei Shalom. Specifically, when it comes to someone who is involved in capturing these various animals, that the din is, as we see on Nun Tesmud Beis, it says that with regard to capturing these animals, there's a din of Gezel Mimnei Darchei Shalom. And Rabbi Yossi says it's Gezel Gomor. It's absolute Gezel. And Rashi over there says Gezel Gomor Midvarehem. It's a din d'Rabbanan. Okay, we'll have to understand what the nafkamina is. Now the Gemara says like this: B'oizli v'ohari. Says Rashi, Rishasai shelchutin sheish lahem toich. If, let's say, you have these nets in which there's a toich, it actually contains the entirety of the animal. Ohare shelgemi. Again, you have these cages which are made of different materials or nets, so the animal is completely captured by these things. As we continue to Samach Aleph Amud Aleph, there's no argument. It says Rashi, in that case, it's definitely stealing. It's the person, the hunters. They argue when it comes to, for example, hooks or other types of traps, and let's say it captures the leg of the animal. So the animal's stuck, but the rest of the body is not enclosed. So in that situation, there is a machlokas. Question 10a. Be'eza oifen yeshma mitsudos chayis la'ovos v'dagim gezel deraiso kuli alma. So b'yeshlem toich dekanulo kelev. Okay, weiter. So now we have the next part of the Mishnah. Mitzias cher shaita v'chul Rav Yossi oimer gezel gomer. So again, when it comes to the findings of a cher shaita v'katan, we say that it's also because of this takana, because of Darchei Shalom, we say that what they found. Rav Yossi says it's real gezel. So Rav Chisda gezel gomer midavrayim, as we quoted before in Rashi, it's really only midrabanan. To be able to take it out with judges. Says Rashi, L'Rabbanan lo napik midayanim. You can't take them out. Mi Rav Yossi gezel malya lo yihavi li pasal edis v'laver labalav. So let's look at question 10b. My nafkamina ben gezel midrabanan lo ben gezel midarchei shalom. Nafkamina lo haitzi midayanim can be taken out from judges. Okay. And then the Mishnah said that ani hamid nakef beroisha zayis ma shetachta v'chulu. So let's look at this Mishnah. So it said that when it comes to a poor person who is cutting off olives, and olives fell down, whatever is on the bottom, if you would take that, that's considered to be gezel because of Darchei Shalom. Again, Rabbi Yossi once again says that's gezel gomor. So I have to understand what exactly is that situation. So the Gemara says as follows: Tana im likate v'nasan biyad harzeh gezel gomor. If, let's say, the ani gathered up and actually picked the olives and they were in his hands, and then let's say they fell, since he had them in his hands, that's a kinyan, and therefore, because that's gezel gomer l'chol deis, and therefore that's not what we're talking about as a machlokas. Of kahana havikazel l'chutzel. So he was in this city. He saw that he was throwing a stick for Nasrin Tamre, and dates were falling off the tree. Azal ka mankit v'achel. He was gathering them up and he was eating them. So Chazimar debiyade shadisinhu. I threw it with my hands. That's what he said. So Amalei mi'atra Rav Yeshaya. This is what Rav Kahana said, that in the city of Rabbi Yeshaya, Atakari Lev Tzadik Yisoid Olam. You read the words Tzadik Yisoid Olam. Okay. So the idea was that he wasn't going to take these dates because he wanted to acquire them. And he says, Rashi says, "Lafikach ato baki b'dinim." You must be an expert in law. Lafi shehu darish rabim umoidiyin, that you taught this in public. And then it says that ein mamachin biadani nachrim b'lekav shech lepayim imnei darchei shalom. So because of darchei shalom, if you have a poor non-Jew who gathers a one shech lepayah, we're not going to protest. We're going to let him do it. Tanabanan. Mefarnesim ani nachrim im ani Yisrael. We will sustain aniyim who are not Jewish together with Bnei Yisrael. Doesn't make any difference. We're going to sustain them and support them. This is going to be question 11. So one is that we are mefarnesin. We will visit the sick. Doesn't matter if it's a Jew or a non-Jew. Is also something. We also will be mavakar chayla to a non-Jew. And also, if they need burial, we're going to do that as well. Rashi points out, of course, lo b'kivrei Yisrael. A non-Jew will not be buried in a Jewish cemetery, but will engage in the proceedings to make sure that they have a suitable burial. Says the next Mishnah, Masnisan. Mishnah says, "Ma she'elas ishal chaverta hachashuda al shvius nafa ukvara v'rechayim v'tanur." A woman who is a respectable woman is allowed to lend these items to her friend, even though she's suspected of violating Shemitah, that she keeps the fruits of Shemitah, and she holds them after the Zman HaBiur. So it doesn't matter, you can still give her your sieve, sifter, your millstone, your oven. Avlo tabur v'lo tidchan ima. We don't sort with her, don't help her, don't grind with her. Says Rashi, l'sayah. Don't assist her in her cooking. You can't help them b'shas haver while they're engaged in a sin. You can't be part of that. So when it comes to shvius, we're very, very strict. Eishes chaver, when it comes to an eishes chaver, a wife of a Talmud Chacham, mashe'elos le'eishes amaret, she's allowed to lend again these items: a nafa, ukvara, a sieve, a sifter. However, here it says uboireres. She is allowed to sort things out, v'toichenes and grind, umerakedes and sift ima. She's allowed to do all these things. We're gonna obviously wonder why this is allowed. If she's chashid on meiser, then l'chayres this doesn't make sense. Why we're so lenient? Aval mishtatel es hamayim lo tiga ima. If it encountered water, then you don't want to touch it. Says Rashi, Lafi shemigalgala hutbala l'chala. Because at that point already, if it's a time when it's chayiv in chala, v'asa ligram tuma l'chala, you're not allowed to cause tuma when it comes to the separation of chala. Lafi shein machzikim yedei over avera, you can't assist them. B'kulan lo amru, and all this is not said. Says Rashi, shehitiru lashilim kalim. All these times we said you can lend out your vessels, sayamim beloy shasaver, and to help them not while they're sinning. Elamim nedarchei shalom. Right? B'kulan lo amru elamim nedarchei shalom. U'machazikin yedei nachrim. You could support the nachri b'shvius of a lo al yidei of a lo yidei Yisrael. We'll have to understand what that means. V'shuan b'shloimim necha shalom. And you're also allowed to be shal b'shalom. Says Rashi, kol hayomim, all the days. V'yavlopi shemeita al nachri shem shemayim shashalom shemo shel kodesh baruch hu. Even though you're saying Hashem's name, you're allowed to greet them as well in that way, and that is certainly acceptable. Fine. So we'll have to understand all the intricacies of this Mishnah. Says the Gemara. So Ma'ishno Reisha, Ma'ishno Seifa. How come when it came to the Reisha, okay, fine. When it came to Shemitah, you are allowed to lend this person who's chayshid these things, but you're not allowed to assist them at all. But in the Seifa, when we're dealing with Tevel, we're very lenient. So Rabbi, so this is a difficult question. This is going to be question 11. Let's see. Question TA29. Eishas Chavir Boreris V'Toichenesim Eishas Amaretz Madua Inkan Mishum Masayil Over Aver Mishum Tevel Kamo B'Shvias. I think that's basically what the question is. So why are we more lenient when it comes to Tevel than B'Shvias? So Omer Baya, so he says, first of all, Roi Vami Arts Masrinheim. If the whole issue is that maybe she didn't separate Meiser, so the majority of women, or people rather, who are Amaratzim, we do say that they separate Meiser. So therefore, we're less concerned about that over this person who's definitely Chosh on Shvias. Rabbi Merhachab Amaretz Dura Meir. Here we're talking about a Amaretz regarding the sheet of Rab Meir. But Tumah V'Tahara de Rabbanan. And we're talking about the dinim of Tumah Tahara, which are midrabanan. What is this referring to? It says Rashi, Umasnisin b'muchsuk la'aser kaimer. V'am aretz rameir hu shechosh le'echel peres b'tumah. We're talking about someone who's choshed that they eat fruits tameh. V'hach tumah v'tahara d'chulin d'rabanan hi. This is referring to not mamish eating tevel, but this is referring to someone who eats. Is not particular when it comes to chulin to keep things pure. And that in itself is all not even deraisa. There's no chiyuv deraisa to make sure that you eat chulin b'tahara. So this person doesn't violate dini deraisas. The Torah lo his hira le'echel b'tahara. El truma b'kachim levad. The Torah only says that when it comes to truma and kachim, it has to be tahar. Hilkach. Lavisir deraisa hi mem neder cheshom mutal sayon. You're allowed to help them in this regard. So let's see what question TH29 says. The tumas chulin durabana. Okay, so that's a second answer. This is referring to an am aretz, which only on the level that he eats his chulin betumah. The sign the ezam aretz kol sheinu oichel chulin b'tahar divra meir, which again is a very strict opinion, but that's therefore that person you can help out. According to them, since someone who actually doesn't take off meiser. It says that once there's water in there, don't touch it because of challah. It must be the ratio to say it was not talking about tumah tahara. So ratio to say b'tumah v'tahara. They're both talking about tumah and tahara. Bereisha, but tumas chulin, as we said, is only durabanan. V'seifa, but tumas chala, and tumas chala is deraisa, says Rashi. She'asu l'tama b'yad, dechsev es mishmeres trumasi avid lashimor. So when it comes to chala, it's actually din deraisa, and that's why we're more strict when it comes to that. But when it comes to chulin, which is the ratio, there we're not going to be as strict. Raminhu, for the Gemara, we continue sama chala from the base. So it says as follows. Taichanin, you can grind tavua mesukenes, grain which is all fixed. Umafkidin, and you can deposit it etzel oichli shvius, and give it as to be done. Says Rashi, oisa etzel oichli shvius shin chashudin lo hachlif lo higa. Apparently, we're not concerned that this person is going to exchange it or eat it or touch it. So apparently, we're very lenient over there. Etzel oichli perisehin batuma, and also those people who eat Paris Batuma. Of a loyal oichish shvius, not someone who eats their own produce on Shemitah. Of a oichish Paris Batuma. So we see something quite interesting over here. It says Rashi, Masnisin Katani Toichenes Hima, U Moikemes La B'oichel Chulun Batuma. We're talking about that you're allowed to grind up. We're talking about Tumah de Rabbanan. So Rabbi Hasam B'Koyin HaChosh L'Echel Truma Batuma Askinan. Dehavali Tumah de Raisa. Here, we're not talking about chulun. We're talking about a kohen who is chayshah that he's eating truma, which is a din deraisa, and he eats it tameh, and that's a tumah deraisa, and therefore that's the reason why we're we're more strict in that situation. Says Rashi, Yisir Deraisahu Kidaprecious. So Yehachi Mafkidin. So if so, it says that if it's a kohen, so why would you be able to give it to him as safekeeping? Isn't he going to touch it? Or minhu mafkidin truma etzel Yisrael am aretz. You can give it to a Yisrael, v'lo etzel kohen am aretz v'mnei shaliba gaspa, because he doesn't care. So l'chayra, that's a problem. So Rav Eloi hachmaskinim b'kli cheres hamukab smid psil. So we're talking. You're right. This guy typically we can't trust, but it's in a vessel which is sealed, and therefore he's not going to break the seal. Avlecha shema to see tenu ishtonida. Maybe his wife will violate it, making it tumas hest. Or Rashi's matamas masof huisheno nogas, even though it's not touched. Rav Yirmi lokasha kan beperos shehuchshru kan beperos shelo huchshru. Says Rashi. Haditani ein mafkidin. When can you not give it? It's already when it's huksher l'kabel tuma. Haditani mafkidin, when you can b'shlo huksher v'tervayu b'truma. Both of them are referring to truma. Okay. Or minhu hamayil chitin l'taychein. The person who goes to grind up the wheat of a kuti, l'taychein kuti, or l'taychein amaretz, hari el b'ches kasan. It's in their chazak. What does that mean? Says Rashi, Shin choshel hachlif shin user v'per shvius. They're not choshit. Harihim b'cheskasel l'maisel v'shvius. And therefore we trust them. Of a lo l'toma. It says b'per not toma, which means l'chayra, as Rashi says, chayshin and shemin naga. We're afraid that they will touch it. And before we said mafkidin etzon, before we said that you could give it to them. So haimai. Haimai rumya lav okimna b'per shul hukshru. We already established this case. It's talking about fruits that are not hechshel kabel toma. Ukamarula my kamarula. So what exactly was this thought process? Misham de geboila mirma achriti Allah. Because we could ask a different question. Hari elu b'cheskas l'maiso shvius l'achlufi l'chal chayshina. So he said that they have a chazaka that they take off meiser and they keep shvius, and we're not concerned that they're going to switch. They're not going to switch the grinder or the switched produce. We're not chayshed of that. Minhu, he told me we're not chayshed of switching hanaisin l'chamoisai. Meiser, let's say you give to your mother-in-law es shehu naisin law, the es shehu naitel himanu. So you have to take off meiser rather. So if you give to your mind, if you hanaisin l'chamaiso, then you have to be master as shuhu naisin law. You have to separate that which she gives to you, the shuhu naitlimin, whatever you take from her. Neshachashuda mechalefes hamiskalkel. We're afraid that maybe it got ruined, and she may have ruined his dough, so she'll give him her untithed dough. No hasim can tie the time. Rabbi Yehuda writes that bita ubaisha michamasa, that because she wants to do the right thing with her daughter, and also not to be embarrassed by her son-in-law. It says Rashi, V'lo rahi mechalefes. She didn't do it for bad, right? She did it to give the better dough to her, back to her daughter. And so you're telling me, no, we're not concerned. But not hanaisan l'pundakis. If you give it to like an innkeeper, it says Rashi, Talmud Yoshlef Neirabo, a student who's sitting in front of his teacher, V'nis achlon eitzel am aretz, V'nis achson am aretz. They're near this innkeeper who's am aretz. Oifalo es isasai. So maser es shuhu noisin law the es shuhu noitel minimum shemachlefes. We see even by other people, not just by your mother-in-law, that we're concerned that maybe they're going to switch it. So hasamayr ba'imra barbe rav leichel chamim avan eichel karira. The reason is, again, with proper kavanah, that they want them to be able to have the better portion. I should have him, right? They should eat warm ba'ana eichel karira, and I'll eat the cold. In other words, he wanted to make sure that they should have the better bread. So which means there's a chance that they may switch it. If you have the wife of a Talmid Chacham, she's allowed to grind with the Amaretz. When is the Eishes Chaver allowed to do that? Bizman shehi tameya, the time when the Eishes Kayin is tameh. Of a little bizman shehi tahar, not while she's tahar. Shimon ben Elazar omer av bizman shehi tameya, even though when she's tameh loy tidchayin. Still, he should not grind with her. Because of her friend, no senes lo will give her to eat. Now hashda mignav ganva. Here the Eishes Amaretz is stealing from her husband to give to this woman. So chaluf probably she's gonna also switch. So Amar Rav Yosef Hasam Nami Mor Ba'ayimra Torah Medishe Ka'achel. That she's just saying like the shore while it's threshing should eat. She rationalizes that she, like a shore, eats while it works. So only here she may swap, but generally no. Says Rashi, Alma chashuda eishes alma aretz lignoiv mishal ba'al litin lachaverta. So Moira haro hetel atzma. So this is how she was Moira heter for herself. We're going to stop there. Let's see. Maybe another couple of questions. Question 12. He motil hafgid truma etzel ama aretz. Are you allowed to give truma to an ama aretz as a pikadon? So he said it depends. An ama aretz Yisrael mutter to a kayin if it's hochsher with liquid, then it's aser because liba gaspa, and then it's aser. Lo hochsher mutter. It's not hochsher, it's okay. Question 13. Hamafkin etzel ama aretz. Beis oifen chashin lahachlafa. When are we concerned that maybe they'll switch it? And you have to separate another meiser. Madua chashina. So he said, b'chamoiso o b'pundakis, by your mother-in-law or by an innkeeper. The mar heter mishum sheroitzim l'toivasai, because she's doing it for what's for your best. B30. He'im mutter lahafkin truma etzel aretz. I guess we just saw this. Ba'amaretz Yisrael mutter b'kayin im hosher aser lo hosher mutter adkan.